So remember back to our last grammar lesson. We're looking at this question, how do we become more fluent writers? And fluent writing incorporates a variety of sentence beginnings and a variety of sentence lengths. And the way to vary those sentence beginnings and lengths is through using the 4 different sentence structures. So we've looked at simple and compound. Today we're going to focus on the complex sentence. So remember, for simple, we had 1 independent clause. For compound, we had 2 independent clauses, and then we had 2 different ways that you could combine them. We had a semicolon, or we had an independent clause, comma, fanboys, and then another independent clause. A complex sentence, on the other hand, includes a dependent clause. That's a clause that cannot stand by itself. And because that dependent clause cannot stand by itself, it has to also include an independent clause. When the dependent clause comes before the independent clause, we'll put a comma between the 2 of them. But when we have independent clause followed by a dependent clause, then we will not have a comma between them, just a period at the end. So look at what that looks like here. We have our dependent clauses. When the dependent clause comes before the independent clause, notice that we have our comma here. And when the independent clause comes first, we have no comma. I have included subordinating conjunction before each dependent clause. That's because a subordinating conjunction creates a dependent clause. A dependent clause is just a bunch of words, basically an independent clause, but the minute you put a subordinating conjunction in front of it, it becomes dependent. I have an acronym for us to remember all the subordinating conjunctions. It is AWOOBIS T. Yep, say it with me. AWOOBIS T. And these are all the words that stand for AWOOBIS T. Now, they're not all subordinating conjunctions in terms of a complete list, but these are the ones that will show up most often. Although, after, as, while, when, whenever, until, unless, because, before, if, since, and though. I would memorize those if I were you, because that's going to make your life so much easier when you're trying to identify different clauses or create a complex sentence of your own. Now, looking at these sentences as examples, we'll identify the subordinating conjunction, the dependent clause, and the independent clause. First sentence right here. If Santa makes all the toys, the elves won't have enough work. Well, first I see that I do have a subordinating conjunction. It's this if. I might also want to identify the independent clause first. The elves won't have enough work. Now, because I was able to identify this subordinating conjunction, I know that all the words that follow it, up until that comma, make the dependent clause. So here's my dependent clause, started by this if, this subordinating conjunction or AWOOBIS T word, and then I have the independent clause here. I have separated those 2 with a comma. Second sentence. I want cheesecake because it is my birthday. Let's start with the independent clause here. I want cheesecake. Subject, verb, complement. Then I see that I have one of my AWOOBIS T words. It's because. And then, knowing that a subordinating conjunction or an AWOOBIS T word creates a dependent clause, that means that all of this is my dependent clause. Notice that I have no comma between cheesecake and because, and that's just because of the structure of my sentence with the independent clause first. You have a grammar worksheet to use so that you can practice both writing and identifying complex sentences, and then you'll just submit that to Canvas. Let me know if you have any questions. Otherwise, I'll see you in class.